Hey, what's up YouTube? Alder here, and it's time to answer the questions that people have been asking me. First, I'm gonna go with the frequently asked questions. The first one, and this is easily the most common question that I get, Balder, what are your PC specs? You have absolutely no idea how often I get that question. I guess I'll answer that though, because I get a lot of compliments, a lot of comments saying that my DCS videos are really smooth. But anyway, my PC specs are this. I have an i5 4690K, I have an EVGA GTX 970 for the Win Edition, I have 16 gigs of RAM, I have several hard drives. The one that I use for my C drive is a 1TB hard drive along with another hard drive that I use for recording. That way I reduce any type of lag when I'm recording. This is especially good if you're using Fraps and really any type of recording software, because when you read and write at the same time, it is going to cause some problems and it's going to slow everything down, game included. On top of that, I have an ASIC case, I have a Blu-ray player, I have, what else? An ASRock H70 motherboard, I think? I'm not sure which, but either way it is an ASRock. As for my network, I pretty much use my own router. It is hardwired Ethernet. My own router is actually what you call a pfSense box, and that's pretty much a computer that I built to become a router. That pretty much gets rid of any type of latency issues, and that works for me. Second question, and this is also pretty common, and this is also a question that really fucking annoys me. Anyway, I'll continue on. Why do you review alpha and beta mods? The answer is simple. Because you have to pay money to get those mods. Even though they are alpha and beta, they are being sold at full release gold prices, and even then, there is no guarantee that they will ever be updated. Here's something to take into consideration. A little more than a year ago, I made my F86 video and I got flack for it for saying that there really wasn't any content on the module. There were no training missions, there were no campaigns, and whatever fan-made content there was, it was pretty limited. So I gave it an 8 out of 10, and that was generous. But I gave it an 8 out of 10 because I liked the mod so much that I couldn't just bring it down to a 7 or 6 out of 10. I liked it, I gave it an 8. Still, people were angry. They were absolutely livid at me, and I really don't understand that. But to put it simply, it's been over a year, and there's still no campaign, and while there are training missions for the F86, that's pretty much it. There really isn't any more content than that. They did do some stuff for the Nevada test and training range, so I will give them credit for that. But otherwise, it's still a pretty barren module 1 year later, so my review is still relative. Or still relevant, I should say. Of course, I do get quite a few arguments as to counter that, such as, well, everyone knows that they're alpha and betas. Well, I understand that, but here's the thing, not everybody understands that there's a lack of content, and it's better to inform the consumer than to let them buy out of ignorance and then end up getting screwed up in the process. That is something I can't stand, and this is why I make these reviews. Therefore, consumer protection, to protect the consumer. And while I understand that the companies will tell you that it's a beta and that it's an alpha, they're not reviewing their own product, they're advertising it. I am making a review. There's a difference. Anyway, moving on. Another frequently asked question is, what joystick do you use? I use a Satek X52 joystick, not the X52 Pro, just the X52. I should definitely look into the Thrustmaster Hotos Warthog, but, you know, money is money. That's pretty much it. Another question is, what are the minimum requirements for DCS World? A lot of people ask me that. Anyway, it's this thing called Google. You can go ahead and type that up, and if that's too much for you, then guess what? I'll put a link in the description so you can finally see it. Anyway, that's enough for the frequently asked questions. I'm going to go with the user questions that people have sent to me, and Yeah, I'm definitely going to answer. First question is not really a question, it's just a statement that I really like. Comes from a guy named Apocom. Hi Lord Balder, thank you for the review. As someone who didn't pre-purchase the map, I found it really helpful. Don't get mad at the people who disliked it. People want that map to sell, so the company provides more content. Look at some reactions regarding the Hawk. Anyway, thank you Apocom. That is definitely appreciated. I'm quite sincere too, because honestly, when it comes down to all these reviews, I get shat on all the time, so it's good to see somebody appreciate my work, so thank you, Apocom. Next question is from Atlex. Sorry if I butcher anyone's name, it's nothing I can really help. Is the Su-25 a really fun plane? He's referring to the Su-25T. I always skipped it seeing as it's the default plane. Is it put together well and functionally sound? The answer is yes. Yes, it is. It is definitely a good plane. I did a little bit of a tutorial on it. It is semi-realistic, so you're not going to be able to push any buttons in the cockpit, but then again, you really don't need to. It's still a very good ground attack plane. Not as good as the A-10C, but definitely better than the A-10A in my opinion. Next is from Neil Coupland. Who's on first base? Her name is Meredith, and the ball is still in play on that one. Anyway, moving on. Next one is from Mr. Sniper237. Do you even lift? Lift what? Could you be specific? Anyway, here's another one from VJ Sequire. What do you know about this? Please check it out. He's referring to the news that Dovetail is making a new flight simulator. I do have quite a few opinions on that. First off, there really isn't a whole lot of information yet as to what it's going to be like, but there is one small glaring problem that I have already found out. So, it seems like Dovetail is going to make a new flight simulator game, however, it's also going to be available on the Xbox One. I really don't want to sound like some PC Master Race guy, even though I totally am, but still, if you have a controller, how are you going to be able to start up a 747? That's my problem. Consoles are way too limited. And I'm not talking about the graphics, I'm actually talking about the controls, the controller, and yeah, that's definitely something I am not looking forward to. Another thing is that Dovetail is very notorious for making a lot of DLC. I mean, DLC for games can range into the thousands, and then on top of that, they charge you $50 to $60 for their modules anyway, so I'm not too optimistic, but I'll play it by ear, and when it does come out, I will get the game, and then I will review it. So, look for that. So, the next question is from Henrik Johnson. Where are you from? I was born and raised in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I lived there until I was 24. Then, at the age of 24, I moved to Fallbrook, California, which is in North San Diego. So yeah, that's pretty much my brief history of living. Utah is kind of an interesting place, I'll leave it at that. The next question comes from Renegade Deception. Hey bro, before you bag on people, ever had a girl before? I doubt it. I bet you haven't had pussy since pussy had you. Ha ha. Yeah, keep playing your video games, smiley face. You know, that almost sounds like something a person who sleeps in a pool of his own jizz every night would say. But to answer your question, yes. Yes, I have, and considering how old you must be to make this asinine post, I probably had sex before your dad could say, sorry honey, I was going to pull out, but then I thought of the little girl down the street. Corey Bauer asks, what sort of music do you listen to? I listen to a lot of metal. Metal is definitely my favorite genre, and I like a lot of bands, various genres, from the entire set of metal, or the entire... what's the best way to put it? Everything that encompasses metal I usually like. I mean, I definitely like speed metal, we're talking Iron Maiden, Motorhead. You know, I was pretty depressed to hear that Lemmy recently died, so, you know, maybe that's the way he likes it, he didn't want to live forever. But it's still kind of sad to see that. Also like Megadeth, some Dio, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, I'll consider them a metal band. A lot of the classic stuff. I mean, Twisted Sister, it depends. My favorite song from them is Burn in Hell. I also like a lot of other things. Power metal, or newer heavy metal, Astral Doors and Visigoth. I highly recommend Visigoth. I like quite a bit of death metal, but I don't really have a lot of bands that I can look towards for death metal. There's Amon Amarth that I like, and then there's Argoslent, but my god, they are the most edgy as fuck band in the world. Holy shit. Or were, they're kind of on hiatus, but still. Argoslent, I'd say they have some interesting music, but they're definitely racist pricks, and, you know, that's kind of how it goes. I also like folk metal, Corpiclani comes to mind, Viking metal, such as Ensiferum, I believe that's how you pronounce it, Bathory. Needless to say, I like a lot of metal. I also like a lot of classic rock, as you can no doubt tell. I also enjoy, strangely enough, rock from the 60s is pretty good. I can sometimes listen to classical music, I can sometimes listen to general orchestra, depending on what it is. I also like swing, I like blues, I like a little bit of techno. I do kind of like quite a bit of music, so that's something to, you know, take into consideration, but I'm a metalhead, that's all I'm gonna say. Tris M asks, what track IR profile do you use? The default. And the next one is from TGT-TUFEU-TGTG. You know, fuck your name. I'm sorry. Is it possible in DCS to make a plane follow you and force it to land like in real life? That's actually a pretty interesting question, because when it comes down to aircraft interception, that's what I'm assuming you're talking about. If you fly a jet fighter all the way in front of a passenger plane on the enemy side, or, you know, military transport cargo, something that can't dogfight, it will start following you. However, I do not think that it's following you because it believes it's intercepted. I believe it's following you because in its mind it's dogfighting you. So can you force it to land? Probably not, but I'll definitely experiment on that. I was never able to successfully do that, so again, take that into consideration, but that's a good question. You can technically intercept a plane, I just don't know if it's considered interception. Next one is from Dan Crew. Did you use autopilot in your Around the World in 80 Flights video? If so, how do you use it? The answer is no, not for the Lockheed plane. Is that a Lockheed plane that they had? Either way, the answer is no, I didn't use autopilot, and I'm probably about as clueless about it as you are, so unfortunately, I can't help you. I didn't use autopilot, but I do use autopilot regularly for jets, airliner jets, because once you get to, 30,000 feet, the controls are incredibly sensitive. You're going really fast, it's hard to keep straight and level flight. What autopilot does is that it allows you to keep yourself in straight and level flight, which is ideal. It weighs the least amount, it makes the passengers the most comfortable. You want to use autopilot. Anyway, Joseph Waddle, I don't know how to pronounce it, sorry, asks, MiG-15 or F-86F? MiG-15. It can climb faster, it can turn sharper, it has very, very, very deadly guns. It's basically better than the F-86, but you do need to know how to control it because it's a lot more unstable than the F-86. The MFR asks, out of all the planes and helicopters in DCS, what are your top 3 favorite? A-10C is probably my favorite, followed by the MiG-21, followed by the Mirage 2000. And past that, I really like the F-15, the Su-27, and definitely enjoy the MiG-15 and the F-86 as well. Despite the fact that they don't have as much content for them, I still love them as planes. Another question from a name I can't pronounce, fuck it. Why do you swear so much? Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, tits. I'm a fan of George Carlin. Anyway, I am kind of trying to not swear as much, and I've been doing quite a good job at that. But yeah, it all really depends on my mood. If I'm really pissed off, then I'm going to tend to swear a little bit more. That's just how I am. Flumphism, I believe that's how you call it. What mic do you have? I think it's the H30 or H130. Logitech USB headset. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's a $30 headset, and it is the best high-quality headset that you can get for cheap, and I absolutely love it, so definitely check it out. Anyway, that's it for the Q&A. Hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, you guys have a nice day.